Welcome back, boys. Today we have Western men's lack of masculinity. I want to check out. This is from Soft White Underbelly.
Dedication and romance from a man, and then when I was trying to figure out what I think it really boils down
Yeah, what
to,
do you think it is?
I think it boils down to a lack of masculinity. They would rather be with a toxic man who's narcissistic but has more masculinity than a loving, kind, reassuring man that lacks that masculinity. And how women define masculinity is protectiveness, essentially, provision and procreation. But I think the key thing with men in America is they're happy to provide. They have no problems with providing. They actually don't have a terrible habit of not providing. They're happy to procreate, but they find protectiveness as a form of oppression. They think if they say to their women, hey, look, I don't want you talking to your ex, or I don't want you wearing that, or I don't think you should be posting that, they think that's them being toxic. So they eliminate the protectiveness completely from their vocabulary. And as a result, they either lack their masculine dominance, or they just attract women who don't want that. And those are the women who tend to be more freedom seeking and do what they want. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, I think certainly the toxic man
This dude has some pretty good takes. I don't know much about this woman though.
should probably be more masculine than the nice guy. It would be hard to be toxic and more effeminate and get that kind of reaction out of women. I think that the reason why women tend to fall in love with toxic men has to do with the fundamental feminine romantic fantasy, which I think is Beauty and the Beast, where it's like most people misinterpret that fairy tale and they think that Belle, the girl, can see.
It's like they want like a dude that they can like fix or change. You know, they want like that power to like change a bad person into a good person. But if you do change, the woman is gonna leave.
Like past the beastly exterior, and she loves him despite being an animal. No, she loves him because he's an animal. And this gives her an opportunity to like get to conquer on some level. Conquering the beast is the female equivalent of just like sexual conquest in men. And so there's this sort
They always chase the dudes that, you know, don't give a fuck about them, and they want to change them so that they do give a fuck. But if they do care, the woman is just gonna leave and take some other dude.
sort of emotional challenge that is very attractive to a lot of women. And they think, I can fix him through my patience, through my love, through my loyalty. I can show him that not all women are like this and that there's more to life. And at the end, the fantasy, of course, is he transforms into the prince, the love worked, and they can live happily ever after. Of course, if Belle fell in love with the beast, what the fuck is she going to do with the gentleman? Like, how long is that attraction going to last, right?
Women seem to want a bad boy who's good to them, and men seem to want a good girl who's only bad with them.
Yeah, exactly that. But I think what it is that women, it's not necessarily that they need something bad, but they need something fearless. They just need a fearlessness. And what's happened with nice guys is they are, one of the traits I see across the board, particularly with men and Western men in particular, they're terrified of women. They are absolutely terrified, and rightly so, I understand, because the movement has made
They're
it that
not
you...
that scary.
I think, yeah, but maybe I deal with the subsect of men that have this kind of...
You're spending too much time in Dubai.
Yeah, I know. They're so terrified to tell their woman that they need more sex. They'll go years without having sex with their wife. They're just scared to say it. They're terrified to tell their woman that she's gained a bit of weight. They're terrified to tell their woman that he might have to, still pay his ex-wife alimony.
That'll fly in Dubai?
I think what it is, they don't have a fear of their women as much. And not so much Dubai, because it's so filled with expats, but I think in Eastern culture in general, they don't fear their women as much. They genuinely don't fear their women as much. If anything, the women fear them a little bit. Whereas in Western culture, they submit and fear their women a lot more. And what Western women don't realize is that when they can incite fear in their man, they lose respect for him. I think the part of them likes that, because you'll see these TikToks where the girls are like, oh, you need a man that's like a golden retriever, you be the black cat, and he should love you so much more. The moment they get that in that man, part of him for being that golden...
You have to always prioritize yourself as a man. Always. Because if you start to prioritize the woman or anything else but yourself and your, I guess, ambition and dreams, the woman it's a very like bad trait to show a woman.
Retriever is that fear of losing her, that fear of her. It's unattractive, and she slowly starts to lose respect.
If the woman should chase you, preferably.
Now, this is not all women. Some women really appreciate that, but majority of the women, they find that emasculating.
And I do think that it's easier for men not to fear having those conversations with women when they don't have a scarcity mentality, when they have consistent success with women, and they might have some optionality even simultaneous with that relationship.
Yeah, you need have like if you are approaching women, you need what he said, abundance mentality and outcome independence. Don't put too much weight on like one encounter. You need to get out there more.
It's very easy to be able to tell the truth and to speak directly about your needs and wants and to be outcome independent when you know that you can be okay either way.
Yeah.
But for so many men, this woman might be the only woman who showed him interest in.
If you signal that, if you have a woman and you signal that she's the only woman you can get, or she's the only woman in your life, that's really bad. That shows, in the West at least, it shows very low sexual market value, and women are disgusted by that. They want like the prize. They want to satisfy hypergamy.
It took him how many years? The only woman who showed him interest in years. And it took him how many years of loneliness and struggle in order to get this.
Yeah.
So he's just like running, trying to prevent loss more than anything else.
Do you think there's a way of men achieving that mentality without having their options open with other women and stuff? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, but it's tough. Like I think to have that kind of confidence without actually exercising optionality, the guy has to be famous.
Right, okay, so he has to have something to him? Like...
He needs to be, because it's only through fame that a man approaches being a beautiful woman, in the sense that even if the famous man is perfectly loyal to his partner, he knows that there's millions of women who are watching him who would be receptive to messaging. He could spin something up very quickly, even if he doesn't have anything actually warmed up. Just like a woman, she always has orbiters around her, even if she's not actively cultivating that kind of attention. Even if she's perfectly loyal, she can't help it. She attracts that kind of attention, and if things go sideways, it won't be long before she has an alternative that suits her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does stem from having options, but I think it should stem, I think as a man, you should grow up with a mentality and be raised with a mentality that women actually need confrontation. It's not something you should be avoiding. And I find that men that don't grow up with their fathers and don't grow up with a lot of men around them believe that women should be babysat. Their emotions should be babysat. You should tiptoe around them, make them feel safe all the time, and they agree with them all the time. When really, when you grow up with both mom and dad, you realize that part of the success.
I've met women that pretend to be like, they just pretend to be like not very smart and stuff like that, but they know exactly what they're doing. They're masters at it.
Of their relationship is they like some back and forth. They need some confrontation from their husband. If they completely run all over him, the relationship won't work, and you won't be modeled masculinity. So I think that it extends a little bit earlier. If you just simply understand that the things that your mum is teaching you is not what women find attractive. Your mum might want you to be obedient. Your mum might want you to be placid. Your mum might want you to agree with her in everything she says. But your wife wants confrontation. She wants to see your
Look at what works and do that, you know?
Own identity. She wants to know your own opinions. Only then she can actually attach to something rather than a shadow of her own opinions. And because so many men are now being raised without their fathers, and so many men have a disdain towards their fathers, they are developing a mindset of becoming an obedient son and applying that into relationships, and it's just simply unattractive.
What are your thoughts on the feminization of men?
It's really worrying, particularly with the low testosterone. It's really, really worrying because now women are left with the options of, masculine men, but they're almost toxic and narcissistic, or with a feminized man. And any woman will choose narcissist over feminized, always. So you're left with women who are quite scarred because that's their optional, their two options. So the feminization of men, I don't even think they realize they're so feminized. I think they think they're doing the right things. So they will learn, one of the things that a lot of men I know, they will meet meet a woman who's treating them badly, and they say, I know it's because of her trauma, she's an avoidant attachment, she was raised this, and they want to explain emotionally about what she's going through and try and be there for her emotionally. Women don't want you to understand them. They want to know what you're going to do about it. Yes, okay, I've traumatized. I, cheated on you. Fine, you understand my trauma came from my childhood because I was deprived, blah, blah, blah. Great. What are you going to do about it? Now, just over-understanding her is feminization. It's not actually attractive. We want to know what you're going to do about it. We want decision makers, not therapists. No offense, we are therapists, I'm not saying it, but in your relationship, we don't want that. That's what our sisters are for. That's what our parents are for. You are there to say, I get that you've got trauma. I know that you've got daddy issues. Not my problem. You're going to act like this? Bye. That's what we're more attracted to than somebody who sits down and does a love language quiz with you. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I made an episode about that called The Trap of Understanding. Not everyone.
Yeah, you need to be more brutal. Like, if you're gonna continue to act like this, some women act like children. If you're gonna continue to act like this, I'll just leave, find another woman. That's kind of what you have to do.
Should be in a relationship. So
never be in a position where you're trapped. I see a lot of dudes, they're in this position. Married dudes especially. They get like children, they marry a woman, and they're stuck. And the woman can basically do whatever she wants, and the dude is in a maybe financially in a bad position where if he does leave, he gets screwed over by the courts and stuff.
Even if we take that on good faith at face value, let's say she does have some traumas, she does have some attachment issues that she needs to.
Oh, yes. So always be in a position where you can leave if you want to, just like that.
To work through. That doesn't necessarily mean that you as a man have to fall on your sword and put up with bad behavior. It's like she might have an injury, just like in sports, she's going to do some PT on the side. We're going to keep her off the field, and hopefully in 6 and 8 months, we can get her back in the game. But like, no one has a right to play despite their injuries. That's just going to hurt more people that way.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, and same for men. Some women will say, I know he's been traumatized and that's why he keeps, cheating on me and he keeps doing this and he's got this drug addiction, but I know it's because of his trauma. So what are you going to do about it? People only respect your decisions, not your thoughts. So what are you going to do about it? It's actually telling them what they want to hear or believing what they tell you. If you work with a lot of women and believe them, automatically you're going to think this is the reason. But the key is, and I say this with men and women, my therapy as a therapist, you should treat every client that comes to you as a liar. They're lying. They're lying the whole thing. And your job as a good therapist is to spot that lie because they're lying to themselves. That's how they got here. And if you as a therapist, somebody comes in and says, my ex is a narcissist, I'll say, well, you chose them. Let's talk about you. Let's see what you're doing wrong. Or they'll say to me, oh, I just don't have a sex drive for my wife. I don't desire her. I'm like, but tell me what's going on behind the scenes. Are you watching too much porn? Are you cheating? More than ever before. And I think men as well. I think the only thing is that men suffer with is if they're significantly shorter than the average woman, then they suffer a little bit. And I don't always know what to tell them.
Isn't that interesting? It's like never been easier in the history of the world for a woman to be feminine, and yet we don't see that. Like imagine the Wild West in the 19th century, how difficult it was even, they didn't have indoor plumbing, like just to stay basic hygiene, and they had these fancy dresses that they had to wash on the washboard and cosmetics that had to come in on the stagecoach, and yet that was our template for femininity for that century. Now it's like you can get it delivered to your door for dollars, and it's never been easier to at least make that presentation. And maybe for some, that's exactly why it's no longer valuable anymore. Do you think that might be the case? Like it's too easy to be feminine, and so that's not worth it anymore? I don't know why
you wouldn't want to do it, but I guess it's just maybe how you've been raised. I think for some people, they always
not dressing for the male gaze.
Not dressing for the male gaze, seeing it as a negative thing to dress up for men.
A lot of women do not necessarily dress for men. They're dressing for other women.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, they are, but there's nothing wrong.
It's wrong to say that it's entirely for
Yeah,
other
and
women.
also there's nothing wrong for dressing for men. You're a straight woman. Why wouldn't you want to dress for men? Well, like, what's wrong with doing that? I get that it's kind of a common thing, like, we don't dress for men, we don't dress for men, we don't dress for men. But even if you did, is that the end of the world? You're single, you're trying to meet a man. What's wrong with that?
Men.
What's wrong with if you wanted to?
You don't see that in any other domain. Can you imagine, like, if you were trying to find a job, being like, well, I don't care what the employer is looking for.
I'm not getting my qualifications for my job, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah,
so
right.
it's a strange...
What do you guys think of
providing, protecting, and procreating.
Because all of the traits and characteristics of traditional masculinity have been deemed as toxic and morally reprehensible when they're presented in men for the last couple of decades.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stoicism, that strength, that confidence, that will to power, that success, achievement. Like, that's great when it's in a woman. And it's like, you go, girl, boss bitch, queen. It's like, but when a man embraces those same qualities, it's scary.
But I blame men for them in that as well, because sometimes I meet men that hate their fathers. And I'm like, why did you hate your father so much? And it's like, oh, because he was not very emotionally available and he didn't spend enough time with us and he just used to work all the time. And so the qualities that make a man of a father, they resent them for. It's almost like they wanted two women to raise them. They wanted lesbian parenting. They wanted their mum and dad to act exactly the same. My mum used to hug me and kiss me. And
sometimes moms put a little bug in kids' ears. It's like, your dad thinks his job is more important than his family, and kids don't have the critical capacity to really examine that until much later. And
then they become on the receiving end when their kids are alienated against them, then they start to realize what it was like. So this kind of anger towards masculinity is even in young boys. They're angry at their dad for kind of pushing them and telling them, look, right, you're going to fail if you don't work harder, or stop your stupid YouTube channel, go get a real job. I know it sounds negative, but a man's job is to be practical and be aggressive and be harsh on you so that you raise your own personal standards. Men seem to resent masculinity in other men these days.
When we talk about that, it's like it's the reason why those high T alpha characteristics of traditional masculinity are threatening is because you can't compete successfully. Low status men can't beat those men. Women can't beat those men in head-to-head competition. And women have entered into male-dominated spaces, and they're not going anywhere. They want to win. They want the work. They want the money. They want the fame. They want the attention. They want the status. They don't want to just be behind a good man and support him from the shadows and keeping a nice home for him while the kids are playing in the yard. Like, those days are gone, for better or for worse.
And I don't want them to misinterpret and think masculinity means being mean and harsh and stuff. It just means having that.
Sometimes it means that.
Sometimes it means that, but you combine it with warmth when you see good behavior.
Yeah.
It's simply just, if you're just too harsh and too masculine, you become avoidant and negative, and you can't build a relationship with that. It's more of a case of punish the bad and really reward the good. That's all. That's all it really kind of boils down to. But what men do is punish, just essentially just reward good and bad. They just stay too consistent with a woman. And you've got to really, really have a punishment for the bad and a reward for the good. And punishment for a woman doesn't mean aggression. It just means withdrawal. Withdrawal of if it's perks, if she's spending too much, it's like putting a limit on it. Or if she's going out too much, it's putting a limit on it. Or if she's disrespecting you too much, you start to think, I don't want to be here. You might withdraw yourself. So withdrawal rather than actively punishing.
What do you guys think of, Orion's gotten in some hot water on our first video where you talked about leading with sex. What,
do you mind refreshing that, and I'll say,
Well, sure. I've since crafted my language a little bit differently.
No, go full throttle. You're in good hands.
Well, I think it's actually better what I've adapted since then. So what I talk about is, for better or for worse, we live in a society in which sex precedes commitment. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think that, especially in an age where women can get in touch with almost every other man on the planet through social media, like they can hunt, they can target specific men, that the way to access certain men, especially otherwise inaccessible, high status, desirable men, is to offer a really compelling sexual opportunity. The richest, creamiest milk that you could possibly offer. That's my new language. Because this is sort of like the Trojan horse. It's, if you offer a compelling, no strings attached, beautiful, interesting, fun sexual experience, it's going to be very hard for most men to say no to that. And they're going to open the door because it seems like it's a gift. There's no strings attached at all. You don't lead with commitment. You don't knock on the door and be like, hey, I was wondering if you could invite me in and make me your queen. It's like, you're not going to get anywhere that way. So you have to lead with something that the other person wants. That's what makes them open their doors and they bring the Trojan horse in. Now, if you stop there and you are just an interesting...
Too many analogies. I liked your original version.
Interesting and compelling sexual encounter. If that's all you are, you might just get kicked out of the city in the morning. So you need to then find a way to stay And that, in my experience, is finding a way to intricate yourself into the economy of that man's life. Like, find ways that you can be useful and valuable and slowly take on more and more of those responsibilities to the point where he kind of can't dispense with you anymore. Like, it would be painful or inconvenient to get rid of you because you do so much. You actually add value to his life. But if you lead with that, the doors stay closed, and if you don't move on to the second phase, you generally get evicted in the morning. So it's a two.
Yeah, if all you can offer is sex to a man, you will get thrown out. To like a high value man, I should say. So this is why there are some women that like start to, like, if you sleep with them, they start to fucking clean your house. They start making you food. They start to do as much as possible, which is useful for you to kind of show their value. But a lot of women don't want to do that anymore. You know, they can't cook, they can't clean, they can't do much of that. And all they lead with is their body. That's kind of a problem. People with low self-esteem see truth as an insult. When you're used to not eating at all, even crumbs taste delicious. I don't know. What do you guys think? Or some stuff about masculinity. It's important to never be in a position where you can't walk away. Anyway, boys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like, sub, and comment if you have some input on this. And I see you boys on the next one. Take care.